Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Rotten Block SMP. Sadly, if you saw our first episode, you know that things didn't end super well for us. No! 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 So we're going to be spending the first bit of our episode today getting regeared, to put it easily. And actually, if you look closely, you might be able to see over my left shoulder that we have a few gifts waiting for us from some very nice other members on the server that are going to make that job a little bit easier. You can see Renae left us a little box of some extra gear, some shulker boxes, even gave us an elytra. That's so nice. Incredible. Really appreciate that after the low of the ending of last episode. And then also Nick here left me a book. You know, he's got all his villagers and things like that for the books. So he really decked us out with some new tools and all of the enchantments for that, as well as a new set of armor that we can get enchanted. So it's a bummer to lose everything, but it's really nice to have a support system around you to make getting re-geared a little bit easier. So I just want to give a big shout out to both Nick and Renae. Thank you guys so much for the extra gear. That's going to help so much. And for all you viewers, definitely go show Nick and Renae a little bit of love. I'll have their channels linked in the description, and I would love if you stopped by and just said hi. Alright everyone, as a plan for our builds today, we actually need a little bit of mud, and I happen to know where there is a mangrove forest that we can pillage. I think on the way, we're going to go ahead and head through the nether and stop by Nat's place, because I know she is right next to the forest. And we can get a little bit of a tour and see what they've been up to. Ah, here we are. With the big letters. Got signs everywhere. There's no way to be confused. Definitely in the right spot. Hello? Whoa. Got some framework going.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
How are you doing? I'm doing good. I've just been planning out my starter base, as you can probably see by the skeleton of a base.
Got more than I've got going on so far. Nice.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Cool. What theme are you going for? I think you have an idea of what you're doing.
I mean, this is going to be kind of different than what my main mega base is going to be.
Okay.
But this I was kind of imagining a bit of Italian,
Like Tuscan?
Italian countryside. Yeah, something like that.
Cool.
So that's why I was going with the orange roof, because I was
yeah.
the tiled roofs.
Oh, totally.
Kind of on the coast. Yeah. I have a Lego set that came out, I think, last year, that's got an Italian Riviera with the same sort of theme, and I was like, oh, I just kind of love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I honestly don't have too much other stuff going on. I just have I have the LA farm over there, which I think everyone is making
for the XP. Yeah, they're so
so
powerful. It's ridiculous how fast you can get XP.
I know, it almost feels a bit like cheating. It's like
a little bit
skipping over a good portion.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. But yeah, they're so handy. It's hard to say no. I'm actually over in this corner of the world looking for a mangrove forest. Or a mangrove swamp. I need some mud.
Yeah, it's just directly east this way. It'll be a bit, but if you just go straight east, essentially you'll hit it.
Perfect.
And it's pretty darn big, so it'll be hard to miss.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, I think I'm gonna go do that then. Thanks for showing me around your base. I'm excited to see it come together. Okay, so she said if we just keep heading this direction to the east, that we should be able to run into it with no problems. Looks like we're also headed through this acacia biome, and I think I want to grab a couple of saplings, because I don't think we have any of this wood nearby in our swamp. And then we won't have to come back for some later. Aw. Got some armadillos. Hi, guys. Definitely one of the cuter additions to the game. Oh, I think I see something over the hedge. Could it be? Wow, yep. This definitely looks like a pretty substantial mangrove swamp. It's just fully covering. It's dense. I think what we should do here is head into kind of the heart of it, and we'll see if we can find a good spot to start mining out some mud. I want to hide it kind of so that it doesn't look super ugly for all the other people that'll come through here. Maybe we'll see about mining out this area here, kind of starting in the middle of the swamp. And that'll give us the chance to, collect a good amount of this mud that's piled up like this, as well as we can clear out a few of the mangrove trees. Just, so things look a little bit nicer, and then we'll also get a little bit of mangrove wood. Whoa. I think this is Johnny's base. We haven't found this one yet. That's looking really cool. With the like intertwining shapes. Now another thing we're going to be tackling in today's episode is going to be the shopping district actually. I volunteered to be the one in charge of sort of facilitating that area and getting things set up, just so that people have an easier time to build shops and whatnot. So I think we want to make a good foundational baseline of just like keeping the terrain nice and clean so that it's really easy to build on top of. To go into my fly cheaty cam here real quick, you can see that basically we have this shoreline that's across from our spawn island here. And I think the hope is that we'll basically have this chunk here over the course of the season become the shopping district. We'll have some tiered systems. So like if you want like a front like oceanside view shop, you can have that. And then on top of that, maybe we'll do like a tiered system so that there's like a couple layers, which I think will make things look a little bit more interesting. The only thing we have to contend with here, I think Ray, if I remember correctly, has his temporary stuff there. And ultimately, I think their base is going to be over here in that chunk that's not currently loaded. So we'll have to check in with him and see what his plans are for this area. But yeah, we got our work cut out for us. Probably the first thing we are going to want to concern ourselves with is just getting all these trees out of here, because there are a lot, and they are going to be in the way for our terraforming and whatnot. Of course, we can always come back in and add some more intentional trees after the fact so it doesn't look so naked and bare. I think trees do add a lot of depth and something to look at to an area, which is nice. But yeah, we want to be able to work with our own custom terrain rather than relying on the general world gen that we have. Alrighty, after that short time lapse, you can see we've done a little bit of work here on the terraforming around the shopping district. And we even have our first shop that's moved in. I think Nick here did a little pop-up shop for his books and stuff like that. So it'll be exciting to see people start moving in and filling out this space. We ourselves actually, I think, are going to build a bee farm in this area right here, right by the tunnel. I think it'll be a good spot. And yeah, I'm excited to see this generally fill out. We'll continue to develop through the tunnel towards the other side of that hill there. And then there's this upper level here where people can start building stuff. Nice little there. Probably can fit a few shops along this line. And then there's obviously all this area here. And then I actually want to play with the idea of having like doing some work in here to make this an area where shops could be built too. Just to give, you know, a bit of a different style if people want to try something different for their stores. And I tried my hand at doing some little terraforming bits like this rock and whatnot. I don't really like this as it is right now, so I'll probably revisit that later, and we'll definitely add more of them around so it's not just on its own. We also have this temporary bridge that's going to the spawn island for now, and I don't know if that'll be me or someone else that tackles that, but we will eventually get a nice proper bridge in there and then start doing some work on the spawn island itself. I think it'd be good to have like some, you know, basic like animal farms, some food farms and things like that just for, you know, a nice aesthetic and also gives people resources if they need them. But that's all the work we're going to be doing in this area for now. Let's head back to the base and see what we're going to cook up next. We've spent a lot of time in this area getting set up with some essentials, but I think we're ready for our first build to start developing this area out. Actually see that I've got these 4 shulkers here, thanks to Renae, where we've totally stuffed them full of all the ingredients and everything we're going to be using in our build. So let's stop delaying and get this done. Just like that, we have our first mark on the world, sort of building out the lore and history of this area around us. The story I had in mind when building this was essentially that I came here on a crashed ship. Obviously, we crashed here into this marshy land, and the fuel that's been leaking out of the crashed remains of the ship has actually been mutating the environment and the biome around us, which is where you can see these eye blossoms and torch flowers coming through, as well as the resin, trying to allude to the fact that this fuel is essentially like spreading and corrupting, or at least changing the environment around it. I'm really happy with how we did the gradient and things like that for the ground, as it's been torn up and textured, with the ground coming through it. Obviously wanted to mesh into like darker, wetter blocks, since that's why we have the muddy mangrove roots and the soul sand, and soul soil rather. Here, because we lost our wing over here and there was kind of a fire, like charred remains scraping its way through the ground, I wanted to kind of allude to the idea that like it's been kind of like singed or fried as it came through, and that's why we did a little bit of a different texture pass here with the terracotta and the magma blocks. If we step inside, you can unfortunately see the potential remains of our flying partner. They've been left there as a mark to see just how dangerous the re-entry into this planet was, and we're in kind of this weird land, and now we're by ourselves, and we're gonna have to figure out how to navigate it and reestablish ourselves over time. There's all these ship doodads with lights and switches and things like that. We even have a bed in here, which we'll partake in. And yeah, I think it just generally gives a fun vibe of a cockpit with a little bit of a ruined vibe, and is a really fun little starter base idea for our land here. You can see that we've also given our swamp area a bit of a custom treatment with some like duckweed and moss and things like that, as well as our alien plants to kind of give this swamp a little bit more character than just the world generation would at default. I really like this extra little bit here, like there's a log floating on the water and it's just sort of collected some weeds and swamp stuff around it as it's been floating along. And then it's been fun to have sort of free roam, free range sniffers, as if they're kind of a local natural inhabitant of this area. I think we're going to slowly kind of corral them in. We can see that we've kind of put a retaining wall here and here to sort of keep them in this area, but they still wander wherever they want to, which is why they're over there now. So we'll kind of give the illusion of free range eventually and have them sort of corralled into a more tighter area so we don't lose them running off over into the distance and whatnot. But overall, very happy with how this turned out, and I'm excited that we have our first little build on this server, and it's something unique and it sort of fits into our story here. Oh, and I didn't even show you the best part. You can see in here that we have our extra spacesuit that has been safely secured in the cargo hold of the ship. He is wearing a uniform, but of course we don't want to, take that off of him. So we're going to let him sit with that. And we have this leftover one that we can learn from, see if we can reinvent the technology and reapply it to our armor that we're wearing now. And just again, see if we can generally start to sort of cultivate this land around us with what little bit of technology we landed with. Ooh, piece of candy. And I generally think that's going to be it for the rest of this episode. We got a lot done today with the shopping district and getting our first build here in this area, as well as a little bit of just general terraforming to get things cleaned up here. That will continue as we continue to do episodes. We'll do a little bit of work here and there over time and sort of totally overhaul this entire area until it is nice and pretty and custom and awesome and full of design and detail. Now, before we sign off for the last day, ooh, another piece of candy. We're actually going to take a look here. If you remember at the beginning of the episode, Renae and Nick got us all geared up with some other stuff. But there's some wings in here that we actually haven't touched yet. Been very intentionally avoiding them so that I can, sort of do the early game without wings and get used to establishing paths and things like that. But I think it's time. I think for episode 3, we're ready to grab our wings. We're going to wear them and have a good time getting around and stuff like that. I think for our next episode, we actually are going to be building our bee farm and actually the bee honey shop that I mentioned we wanted to put into the shopping district. So that'll be in store for episode 3. It's going to be a lot easier when we can fly around and get around that way. So look at that. Sky's the limit. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.